All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. To some of you, I'm sure it's also good evening. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Muna Assi, and I head product marketing here at Atera. Very happy to have you on our webinar today, Spotlight on Partners. This is our partner collaboration series. We'll be starting in just a couple of minutes. I do see that there's still people joining the session. So let's give it 2 more minutes and then we will officially kick off. So if you still haven't had time to grab your coffee, this is a great opportunity. And as we wait a couple of minutes for a few more attendees to join us, let's do our monthly ritual. So for those of you that have attended our webinar series before, we always love to ask our attendees where they're from. So if you don't mind telling us your name and where you're from, type it in the Q&A box. Let's take a look. Who's the first attendee that's going to share with us? I see Ben. Hi, Ben. Thank you for joining from Vermont, USA. We've got Jim Cooper from the UK. I recognize Jim. I think you've been on a few of our partner webinar series. We've got Cyrus from Silicon Valley. That's great. We've got our American audience. We've got Jeff from Canada. Scott there from Columbus. Welcome, everybody. A great morning today. Doug, Richard, Lewis Jones from South Carolina. Welcome. Thank you for taking the time to attend our webinar. Always great to see some familiar names. Okay, very much a US audience today. We've got Nicholas from Stockholm. Hi, Nicholas. Thank you for joining today. Fantastic. Let's take a look. We've also got people typing in the chat. We've got Monish from the United Arab Emirates and Matt from North Carolina. Welcome. Great. We've got Joe from California and Harry from Ohio. Awesome. And we've also got people from Brazil. Great. I think that now's the time. If everybody's grabbed their coffee, I think we're good to start. So again, a warm welcome to all of you. So for those of you who are attending for the very first time, I want to remind you this is our partner collaboration series. We host these series on a monthly basis, giving you the opportunity to learn about the different partner solutions that we have on the Atera App Center. And it's really an opportunity for you to be able to better understand the applications and solutions so that you can leverage them, whether you're looking for security applications, for remote access, for backup solutions, monitoring, and today our focus on security. This is really a webinar series to help you on that front. And really, Atera lets you manage your environment in the way that you want with the tools that you need, and you can easily adopt and deploy those through the Atera App Center. So today I'm very happy to host our partners from Webroot. Let's see why my presentation's not moving here. Awesome. So you're all here to hear about how you can build a strong foundational level of security. And today our partners from Webroot are going to share with us how to get back to security basics with multiple layers of protective coverage against a wide range of threat vectors. We're going to talk about the different ways malware, ransomware, and cryptocurrency scams all make extensive use of phishing and how you can protect your clients from them and of course your own systems. And then we're going to talk about the most cutting edge threat intelligence trends and details that you need to know going into 2023. But before we kick this off with our special guest today, I do want to go through some housekeeping. So before we get started, I want to remind you that this webinar is being recorded and will be made available to you through email right after, I guess within 48 hours of this session. but you'll also be able to find the recording of this webinar on our on-demand section in our webinars page. If you've got any questions or comments for our speaker today, please type those in the Zoom Q&A console, not in the chat. And then we will be addressing those questions towards the end of today's session. But of course, some of those will be answered in the background. We've got an amazing team from Webroot who will be addressing those questions. And we've got Jason from our customer success team here with us today, who will be answering Atera specific questions. So please don't shy, type in your questions and we'll address those as we go. If we don't get to your question, we'll definitely take it right at the end. In order to improve on those webinars, we do have a survey right at the end. Let us know what you think. Let us know how you want to proceed after the webinar. So please take the time to answer the survey. It's just 1 minute of your time. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome our speaker. So as I said, I'm just moderating today's session. I head product marketing here at Atera, and I've been working very closely with our partners to see what are the different solutions that we can put forward in order to give you insight on how you can leverage those for your business. So I'd like to welcome David. David, if you don't mind, let's see you on camera. Hi there, welcome.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Nice to be here today.
Thank you for making it. So Dave has really been with Webroot since 2019. He's been in the MSP business since 2001, I believe, Dave.
Yes.
And in his current role as manager solutions consultant, he enjoys working with our partners to get the maximum value and efficiency from all the products and the numerous integrations. At his previous role as VP of Managed Services and the leader for a 35-person service team that was focused on redefining the leadership approach to IT, his guidance opens new doors and opportunities and provided management direction for the continual growth of new team members. Dave has also been recognized as a top 250 mentor by MSP Mentor. That's amazing, Dave.
Thanks.
So thank you very much for being with us today. So Dave, what are you going to talk to us about today?
Well, really just like you said before, building a strong foundational level of security. We have 3 products that we think are essential to that, and that really forms that foundation. So mainly all about that and some insights into some of our architecture, our threat report that we publish every year, and then just a brief highlight of our products as well.
Amazing. So
lots of questions and answers.
Apologies for interrupting you. Yeah, definitely. No, we want to take the questions and answers. I will share with this audience that today we're not going to do a deep dive, but stay tuned because towards the end of the webinar, we will share with you a link for a deep dive into Webroot solution that's happening tomorrow. So today we're going to focus more on the insights, but then if you want to see a deep dive, stay tuned. We will share in the chat a link for that. And we'd love to see you tomorrow as well. So without further ado, Dave, I'm going to hand off. I'm going to stop sharing here and hand off to you to walk us through.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody can see my screen, correct?
We can.
Okay, great. So first of all, I'd love to thank Atera for hosting today's and tomorrow's deep dive webinars. And thank you to everybody who's joined this webinar today. So I've been in the business, the MSP business specifically, nearly 20 years before joining Webroot. I owned my own MSP in San Diego, and then that was in the 2000s, and then joined a small MSP in Denver, and over the next 10 years, helped build that to a $10 million MSP. So I spent many years in all of your shoes, and at some point was where many of you are now. So I understand all of the challenges that you face. especially in the security realm in selecting the right vendor tools to manage. I own the vendor relationships and technical outcomes of our vendors, and we picked Webroot in 2010, and my former MSP is still using all 3 Webroot security products today. The fact that we trusted them for so long and they're such a great company to work with from a vendor point of view is the main reason I chose to actually work at Webroot. So today's presentation is all about how I know the Webroot products can also make you successful for all the reasons I'm about to explore with you. So just a brief agenda for today's webinar. I'm going to talk a little bit about BrightCloud, what it is and why it's important. Each year, Webroot publishes a threat report, and this year's findings are significant in terms of why a strong security foundation is so important for your customers. Next, I'm going to highlight our 3 security product offerings and go into each one a little bit and why to consider Webroot as the security vendor for your customers. And finally, just a brief summary and then a question and answer session. So BrightCloud. What is BrightCloud and why is it so important? The threat intelligence trends and details presented in the 2022 BrightCloud threat report are based on data continuously and automatically captured by our BrightCloud platform, which is the proprietary machine learning-based architecture that powers all of our Webroot protection and BrightCloud services. This data comes from over 206 million real-world endpoints and sensors, specialized third-party databases, and intelligence from end users protected by our technology partners, which I'll go over also. Our threat research team analyzes and interprets the data using advanced machine learning and artificial intelligence. In the report, we break down a broad range of threat activity, offer insights into the trends we've observed, discuss wide-reaching impacts across industries, geographies, companies, and people, and reveal what our threat experts expect to see in the coming year. And for anyone interested, we can certainly make a copy available to you. So this is just a further breakdown of the information we are seeing and tracking and contributing to why Webroot is the industry leader in threat intelligence and the significance this brings to our security offerings, because each of our products is actually harnessing this power to bring some of the highest efficacy to threat detection and remediation. So again, you can see here for yourselves the vast amount of data that we are processing daily, 5 times scanning the entire internet IPv4 and IPv6 space, which is over 4 billion IPs. Pay particular attention, I think, to the 38 billion plus file behavior records, because that's incredibly important in how our endpoint detection works. And again, the rest you can see for yourselves. So our data set and our unique ability to contextualize it in the way we do is why the world's leading and up-and-coming security and other vendors trust our threat intelligence. We're helping them build better products, and they've vetted our capabilities and trust the intelligence we provide. In addition, having some of the biggest names in security and technology means we are enhancing the collection capabilities and of our bidirectional threat intelligence with these other companies. And so you can see we really power a lot of hardware vendors out there: Citrix, Cisco, A10, Aruba, F5, some pretty big names, Logarithm, which everybody knows is hugely into security. So this literally is exactly the same power brought into play with our endpoint and DNS products. That they are really simply little vehicles on computers that harness this technology to the desktop and user to keep them protected. So I'll go a little bit into our threat report. The biggest takeaways of this year's threat report, and building on the last several years of reports, is basically twofold. The good news is overall infection rates are down for both business and consumer PCs. Another trend continuing from previous years was a decrease in infection rates for consumer and business PCs. In 2019, you can see the stats there, 12% of consumer PCs, 8% of business PCs experienced at least one malware infection. 2020, that dropped to 8.5% for consumers and 4.7% for PCs. And then in 2021, witnessed even further decline, going down about half for both consumer and PCs, 2.1% for business PCs. And then within the first 6 months of 2022, we witnessed a 20% infection rate for businesses with 21 to 100 employees, which means the trend to target small and medium-sized businesses is continuing stronger than ever. This is 14% lower than what we saw in 2021, but it's still not great. We also saw an uptick in malware being unique to one PC, which means the bad actors are creating very evasive malware steps to ensure each attack variant is unique, and why we analyze so many of those file behaviors, remember nearly 40 billion, so we can predict based on file execution behavior alone whether or not a new file to a device might be malware. In other words, real-time scanning with file behavior analysis and contextualization during that file execution. So now for the bad news. User behavior continues to be the leading factor, and consumer users are far more likely to engage in riskier online behavior. And not surprisingly, ransomware continues to be spread largely through multi-stage malware attacks. So I'd like to just take you through a typical ransomware attack and why it's important to illustrate, especially the first stage, which ties into everything we are seeing at Webroot in terms of threat activity across the globe. The first stage is the all-important phase and probably the most preventable, as we will see later, because it's a phishing attack, tricking a user into clicking on a malicious attachment or link. And in most cases, it's a document that asks the user, often through highly creative language, to enable macros. We are all familiar with this ploy, but our end users are not, even to this day, obviously. Doing so infects our computer with a botnet client, which provides the attacker with command and control capabilities over the computer. In the second stage, the attacker uses the botnet client to install malware like TrickBot or Cobalt Strike to begin the reconnaissance inside the organization, moving laterally from system to system and stealing credentials. Finally, the attacker uses their already installed malware to download ransomware and infect the organization systems. One of the biggest takeaways from our mid-year report is because of the adoption of Windows 11 has been slow, these results highlight the importance of incorporating a layered security approach that includes DNS protection, which helps reduce infection rates. Not only does DNS protection offer added privacy, very often not talked about, but it also acts as a robust defense against malware with a 31% fewer infection rate when endpoint and DNS protection are combined. However, the most important takeaway is that phishing is absolutely on the increase in 2022, and we see no reason that the trend isn't continuing into 2023. Nearly 20% of all phishing activity occurred in April, likely due to the result of tax season when cyber criminals prey on unsuspecting users looking for their tax refunds. And this is absolutely continuing into the holiday season with, for example, gift card and false purchases and holiday party phishing emails. And you can see the top 5 targeted brands, probably no surprise there. So what do we think here at Webroot the best way is to combat all of this? Of course, we would like you to take a look at our security offerings through Atera, which I'll be highlighting in the next several slides. But, and I'll repeat this, no matter what products you use, these days you must provide a multi-tiered layer of security, and this is that security foundation that we're talking about today. Our security foundation consists of 3 products: Endpoint for antivirus and absolutely the best anti-malware in the industry, DNS protection for controlling all aspects of not only user browsing behavior, but computer and application access to the internet, and security awareness training, which not only educates users and provides your customers with regulated compliance requirements, depending on their industries, but provides an easy revenue solution for your own MSP. All 3 of our products are managed from our single console, making it incredibly easy and efficient to manage all devices across all of your customers. It is purpose-built from the ground up for MSPs, and we spent many years creating it for MSPs and continue to improve the efficiency and usability of the console, actively solicit feedback, as well as continuing to develop overall threat detection and remediation efficacy. When you trial 1 or all 3 of our products, our sales engineering team is available along with Atera for onboarding and walking you through exactly how to set things up for your best experience managing our products. So now let's take a brief look at all 3 products, starting with our endpoint. So I'll just do, some highlights about what our endpoint product does and why it's, I think, one of the best out there. And again, why I used it for over 10 years at my previous MSP. So you can manage all your endpoints for all your customers with ease. It's truly multi-tenant. And it is just allows you to manage all your clients from one central console, which saves time and money for you. You can save time with our advanced threat intelligence. We're using, like I said, the real-time artificial intelligence gathered from millions of sources to protect against that constantly evolving cyber threats. We have automatic updates and then that simplified management through the single console. We deploy in minutes, not days. The last thing you want to do is waste time trying to install your security product. We offer lightweight agents with literally taking seconds to install. I mean, less than 10 seconds is usually all it takes to get Webroot on a machine and then being fully protected. You can easily manage the endpoints via the Atera RMM integration. So we have a seamless integration with them. And that prevents you from having to switch between multiple consoles. So you can, with the integration, access important information, status of installation, and threat detection with your familiar Atera interface. We also offer APIs that allows for even further custom integrations and automations, and allowing communication between Webroot and other security solutions. We have very, very quick response to threats. We have an automated detection and response solution built on the benefits of endpoint detection and response by integrating our advanced artificial intelligence and automated threat hunting capabilities. This allows for quick identification and response to potential threats, resulting in improved overall security. And then again, like I said before, we have a very low footprint, and you can ensure your clients' machines are not slowed or bogged down by the endpoint. Even during active scanning, your clients won't even know it's running. So our real differentiators, I believe, are multi-vector protection, remote management and monitoring integration with Atera, true auto remediation when a threat is detected, and all products managed from a single multi-tenant console, incredibly lightweight agent for speed and efficiency, and a fully cloud-based architecture with no file-based signatures. And we were the first to introduce this to the industry. So now let's take a look at our DNS protection. The problems with DNS are really due to its age. When it was first created, it was built to be scalable and performant. As privacy and security were not a consideration at that time, its design now compromises both. For example, every DNS request is currently sent in clear plain text So anything monitoring DNS request can not only read what is being requested, but the data request can also be modified. Not to mention, there is no visibility as to which DNS server is fielding these requests or whether it is even correctly configured and trustworthy. Standard DNS requests have no security intelligence applied. The outbound request is simply resolved, hence the ability to redirect traffic by bad actors. DNS servers themselves need to be secure, and privacy goes out the window when you don't know how your DNS requests are being processed or by whom. As DNS is such a basic internet protocol, organizations have taken it for granted, and that's made the world's 30 to 50 million DNS servers an increasingly popular cyber attack vector. A recursive DNS server's only function is to resolve requests. It has no way of knowing whether the connection it enables is good or bad. Many organizations' firewalls do not inspect the port that DNS servers use to listen for queries, and often the default firewall configuration is to allow inbound DNS requests from the public internet so that a DNS service can respond. That's dangerous, as already much of that inbound traffic is encrypted, and both cyber criminals and malware use that encryption to hide. This openness and lack of protection makes DNS an ideal target for ransomware and phishing attacks. These targeted threats then connect an infected endpoint with a command and control server controlled by a cyber criminal and spread malware to other endpoints on the network. Once a machine is compromised, the attacker can steal personally identifiable information, intellectual property, or other sensitive company and customer data by encrypting, compressing, and chopping it into packets that are small enough to fit into a DNS query. These are then easily transmitted outside of the network. One of the things we have yet to touch on, apart from security, is the privacy of DNS, again, often not talked about in the IT industry. DNS requests are sent clear text on port 53, and these requests can be viewed and even modified, hurting both privacy and security. The good news is that DNS is finally evolving, and courtesy of the same security your browser uses when connecting to a banking or other HTTPS website, your DNS requests can be secured and encrypted. This is the concept of DOH, which stands for DNS over HTTPS, as most of you probably know. Currently, Mozilla Firefox is beginning to use it, as well as Chromium browsers, and Windows 10 and 11 are piloting its use too. However, the potential problem with DOH is that the business can potentially lose control of DNS if applications start managing DOH requests independently of the operating system. The good news is that the latest version of Webroot's DNS protection with full DOH support takes this loss of control into account by managing all communication between the agent and the Webroot resolvers via DOH. And all DNS requests are now fully encrypted and hidden from cyber criminals. All right, finally, let's look at Webroot security awareness training. I know it's frowned upon to read a slide during a presentation, but these stats are worth breaking that rule, I think, because they are pretty scary, so I'm going to read them. 35% of workers who know they've been hacked don't bother to change their passwords afterward. 49% of employees admit they click links in messages from unknown senders during work. Of workers, 67% of workers are sure they've received at least one phishing email at work. And of those 67%, 40% of those who received that phishing email didn't report it. That's very, very scary. So this is just a brief look at some of the agencies that require training. And I know that all of you have customers falling into industries that are being regulated by these examples. And the one thing that is common across all of the regulatory agencies is mandatory employee security training. They have to secure this training, they have to secure these training services. So why not be the provider of this training for your customers? The reason Webroot does all this work to affordably secure small to medium-sized businesses is really to secure their partners' success in educating their customers in the very aggressive threat landscape out there today. These are the efficacy stats across all of the users being educated by our MSP partners who have rolled out Webroot security awareness training. And I know personally from rolling out a successful SAT program that not only are time and money saved, but revenue can actually be increased because infections are minimized, support tickets are decreased, users gain valuable education to help them become a strong link in the security stack rather than being the weakest link. And finally, by communicating the results with your customers on click rate efficacy, you are clearly showing their return on investment and you really show your value as their trusted security advisor. Not to mention rolling out security awareness training is easy with our management features, especially our new feature, which we call Autopilot, and again, can be very profitable. Well, that concludes the presentation portion of the webinar, but along with leaving you this summary slide as to why it is so necessary to build a strong security foundation for your customers, I'd like to now open it up for questions and answers. And if we have any already, go ahead and we'll read those. And I'll leave another slide up in a little bit for anybody who has questions after the webinar or for everybody who perhaps potentially watches this, after the fact. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. That's been super informative. While we're still at the topic of the security training, I would like to ask questions before I look at some of the questions that we got here from the team. Can you elaborate again around how our partners here, our MSP partners, can leverage the security in order to sell on the service? Can you repeat that again?
I don't understand the question, Muna. I'm sorry.
For the security training, right? You mentioned that this is an opportunity for them, for our partners, to use this as a way for them to educate their end users. Can you repeat that, please, on how exactly they can leverage the security training? So on the one hand, they can sign up and get the certification, but how can they then sell that on to their end users?
Well, I think, again, a lot of customers out there are falling under some sort of compliance regulations now. And so they have to take the training, right? So I think as IT providers, as MSPs, there's no reason that shouldn't come from you, right? From the MSPs, and using all of the products out there. I think in particularly Webroot, we have such knowledge and insight into the trends. Our content is we're looking at, real-time phishing trends. And so the content that we create is really based on emails and phishing emails that we're seeing through our Bright Cloud intelligence, right? That's all being analyzed. And then that helps us create very, very relevant and timely content, for one. Two, I think it's incredibly easy to manage. And so again, looking at the stats over time, as long as you provide a training and a phishing simulation once a month is all it takes. And with our Autopilot, it is incredibly easy to do this now. It takes a little bit of setup, but like I said, my team's available along with Atera to help our partners, set this up and really get it going. And we offer trials, right? So if during the process of trying to convince a client to, go with this service, then we can set up a trial and you can show your customer why this is so important. Because again, based on the stats I showed you, probably 40% of their users are going to click on that phishing simulation that you send them. And immediately you can show that business owner This is why you need this. This is why your end users need to be educated, because 40% of them are probably going to click this. And that probably, if it were real, would have cost that business money. So it's very easy for Atera partners to onboard SAT and get their clients on board. And like you said, Muna, with the certification, we teach you how to sell it, and then we teach you how to manage it as well. And it's very, very easy. I rolled it out 5 years ago, and we instantly made money on this. So it became a revenue stream for us, you know, and there's all kinds of ways to get clients to buy it. They can use different budgets. You know, they don't have to use their IT budget. It really falls under the HR. So there's a whole nother budget that can be used. And it takes not much convincing to have these customers pick up on this, especially when they need to do it, right? Again, 5 years ago when I rolled it out, the compliance wasn't the same. But now these industries are regulating and mandating that customers have it. So it's actually it's easier to sell now than it ever was before.
I think that's a really good point that you bring up. You know, as we look to sell these specific solutions, who really is your buyer, who's your champion? And the fact that you bring up the HR here, because of compliance and regulation, I think that's a really good point to determine your contacts. There's a question here around endpoint detection and response, EDR. Where Ben is asking, does the Webroot endpoint protection qualify as an EDR solution? Because he gets asked this often in some of the ransomware insurance forms that he has to fill in.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Ben. So technically at the moment, most insurance companies are not considering Webroot an EDR. We are working on it. It's in development currently. It will be coming out soon. I have no idea when, and I can't even venture a guess at this point. But if what we do, Ben, in these situations is if the insurance provider isn't just very cut and dry around what they believe qualifies, then we can have a discussion with you and your insurance provider. So again, my team would get on the phone with you, with Atera, and we would talk to the insurance provider and give them some information. We have several data sheets. And I mentioned it before, what we have is automated detection and remediation, right? And so the insurance industry really is not very familiar with this, but in many ways, it actually is better than EDR, because EDR is, although it's detecting and it's responding, that response is generally just, you know, the product is telling you something happened and now you have to go do something about it. But with our ADR, then we're actually remediating that issue. But again, it's kind of us trying to educate the insurance industry, and depending if they're open to a discussion, then oftentimes we have been able to get that insurance provider to accept Webroot as filling that square and actually complying with EDR.
Great. I think that, as Ben says, that's a great answer. Referring to the slide where you showed us some of the stats on good cyber hygiene, could you share where that data was compiled from?
Actually, I don't have that information, but I can absolutely make it available. 100%.
Perfect. We've got a question here from Harry. Okay, so we'll provide that data we'll get that information from you and we'll put it forward. We have a question here from Harry about, he says, everyone out there is doing their best to try to capture DNS queries. Information sells and generates revenue. At what point does Webroot encrypt the DNS query, and does Webroot capture DNS queries for analysis, marketing, revenue, etc.?
Absolutely not. To answer the second question, we don't capture any of that data. We just simply are collecting it and actually giving it right back to you via the console, via reports. So you actually are controlling that DNS in terms of you have full access to that, and then you can provide that back to your clients. The encryption happens immediately upon the DNS query, because our agent is at the OS level. And so what is happening is, and why currently our DNS product is dependent on our endpoint product, although that is changing, and we hope to, in the first quarter of 2023, have a standalone DNS agent. But right now, the DNS requests are being captured into our endpoint, which then has an encrypted tunnel right back into our DOH servers. So the request is immediately encrypted. There's no way for anybody to be able to view that. And I think if, we get with Piotr after the follow-up, we can actually demonstrate this, and you can see in real time how, we'll set up a browser and you can see with packet sniffing, how that entire conversation is completely encrypted and there is zero information being transmitted to where any cyber criminal could be capturing that.
Perfect. We do have a question here around back to the certification and the courses. There's a question is whether you provide some of the course content, or do you look to the service providers to get certified first and then use that knowledge to then deliver the content that's needed?
Absolutely do not require any partner to be certified. That's just a thing that we provide, a service we provide to our partners. If they'd like to take it, we have sales certification and we have technical certification, but it's not necessary to take. Absolutely not. And we created that content, obviously, but in terms of our SAT content, the training content, and then the phishing content in our SAT program, we use Ningio and we use Skillsoft, and that content is created by them. It is also created by us. So we work in conjunction with both of those, third parties to then create the phishing simulations and the training as well. And in the future, we will be allowing an upload of, custom training as well.
Fantastic. We have another question here for you, Dave. So someone says, I use a firewall. So they've got a firewall. So does this DNS solution do something better? And then why would I need that if I'm already secured here using the firewall?
Well, the firewall is necessary no matter what. You still need that for various other reasons. But I think it depends on the services that you're getting and the licensing you're doing inside the firewall. I mean, firewalls generally, have some sort of threat management. You can buy additional modules that do content filtering, right? So one of the benefits of our DNS product as well is that you can content filter, right? So you can, and the webinar tomorrow, Ken Thon is going to deep dive that and show you exactly all the categories that can content filter. So that does provide a pretty high level of protection right there, because, as an MSP via the firewall with the right licensing modules, you can do content filtering, making sure that, those users of that business are going only to the authorized or approved websites that that business owner wants them to go to. But in terms of privacy, it's still all open-ended, plain text being sent over. And that's only capturing, user browser behavior, versus our product is actually doing application level and operating system level DNS servicing as well. So if the computer, everybody knows Microsoft's going out trying to do its updates. Well, we now have access to that and we can control that via the DNS agent. Application reaching out to the internet as well. So that is all happening, inside of or the control of that can be monitored by our DNS agent. So it provides a much higher and deeper level of security than just a firewall.
Thank you. And just to remind again, we did put the link to tomorrow's webinar in the chat. So if you are interested to get a deep dive, this is your opportunity to register and join us tomorrow. You mentioned operating systems. So do these solutions or products also work on Mac?
At the moment, they do not. So we have, for now, we have our Windows agent for DNS. It's only Windows, it's not Mac. However, inside of our DNS protection, we do have a network protection feature available. So it does require the Macs be behind probably a business firewall, but we can protect any device behind that firewall. So if if they're back to the office and it's more of that traditional business setting, we do have a way to protect that entire firewall and every device that's behind it, including all Internet of Things devices. So mobile phones, tablets, Windows, Macs, the servers, anything that's sitting behind that firewall, we can protect with our exact same DNS protection. And again, Ken will show that tomorrow as well.
So I believe a final question here, and everybody, you're still welcome. Please send your questions. Dave is here happily answering those. You mentioned antivirus is in the cloud. So what happens when computers not connected to the internet?
Great question. So we do have offline protection as well. We've got fantastic heuristics, which can be changed, right? We have different levels of how strong that heuristic can be. And in situations where there are devices because of whatever the business is doing, and you know that that particular customer goes offline quite a bit, we would work with you and we would probably ratchet up the local heuristics to those devices so that when they do go offline, they've got, a more stringent level of security that is really looking at any new file that's introduced, to that particular system. Now, again, no antivirus product is 100%. And if anybody tells you that, then that's the first person you should walk away from quickly. And there are times if a machine is offline and a new file is introduced that potentially is malware, and not having that machine, not having access to, our Bright Cloud to be able to contextually analyze that, it could be that that machine does become infected. However, as soon as that machine goes back online, Webroot immediately reaches out to Bright Cloud, and anything that took place while it was offline is all that information is sent up to Bright Cloud. Bright Cloud analyzes all of that. And if a threat is found by Bright Cloud at that point, it will immediately detect that threat, remove the threat, and then roll back that machine to the place it was before that threat was actually launched. So we do have very good offline protection as well. And again, depending on that organization's needs, we would, that's my team as solutions consultants. We're helping you, create a solution that works for that particular customer. So we probably want to talk about that and just make sure we're really doing the best we can to protect that customer who goes offline frequently.
And we have a final question here. How often do the signatures get updated? Is it daily, weekly? What is the cadence?
Yep, great question. So really, there are no signatures because nothing lives on the machine itself except a few small local databases of every file that exists on a machine. So I'm going to get pretty technical here and semi-deep dive this. So on a machine itself, there are no signatures to download, no signatures to install. Really, I don't want to say the signature lives in the cloud because that's not quite accurate, but Bright Cloud is where that threat intelligence lives. And so it's being updated continually in real time. When a new threat is found in Bright Cloud, that information is generally available within 5 minutes to all of those 206 million sensors that are out there. Right. So just think about that. A new threat is found in the wild, and within 5 minutes, we have now changed that database up in Bright Cloud, and that now becomes strengthened and hardened against that new malware and is now available to all 206 million sensors and users out there being protected by Webroot.
Great. I think with that, we don't have any more questions here. David, that's been super informative. I would really like to thank you for your time and for your insights today. Any final words you'd like to say before I wrap it up?
I think just, again, I said it before, whatever products you go with for your security vendor, make sure that, at the very least, you have these three, in addition to the firewall, obviously, but endpoint protection, DNS protection, and truly security awareness training is becoming more and more important and more regulated and more, mandatory for your customers' users. So I think, of course, we'd love for you to take a look at Webroot, through Atera. And we think we do have the best products out there. And it comes with a great level of support, proactive and reactive if necessary. So I think that's my final words, is just make sure your customers are protected at those three levels and give Webroot a shot through Atera. And thanks for the time today.
I'll second that, Dave. Thank you very, very much. We appreciate having you and the team of Webroot with us today. I'd like to take this opportunity to again remind our audience there is a deep dive demo happening, deep dive webinar that's taking place tomorrow. We placed the link in the chat box, so please take the time if you can attend that, and you can stay up to date on all the integrations and our latest updates with Webroot, both on our integrations page on the Atera website, but also through our knowledge base. And at this point, I'd like to thank you for attending and remind you that we do have a very short 1-minute survey that will pop up right after the end of this session. Thank you all very much and hope to see you again on our next webinar. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Dave. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.